Is Christianity meant to be taken literally or figuratively? Is it a mystery religion? Let's talk about it. So in order to not drag this out, let's just get right into it. Is Christianity a mystery religion? I lean towards yes. And the simple reason is because the evidence is just not there. The archaeological evidence is not there. You know, there's too many contradictions there. There's too many holes in it. There's no contemporary history in regards to any of these supernatural occurrences that took place in the Bible. You cannot find any contemporary history written about any of the supernatural things, which in my opinion would have been pretty big news back then. It would have been something that somebody would have wrote about. It would have been, a man being dead for 3 days and resurrecting, and, a man being born of a virgin, 500 dead people rising from their graves and walking around the city. That would have been written about by some historian. I mean, historians existed then. They existed before then and have documented many things. Why would they not document some of these extraordinary things going on in the Bible? You just don't find it. The evidence is not there. And if you do a simple Google search on any of this stuff, ask if the characters existed. Go Google. Ask, did Moses exist? Did Solomon exist? Did Solomon's temple exist? Did Melchizedek exist? The evidence is just not there. The only way that you can prove the Bible is real is to use the Bible itself. And unfortunately, that's not how it works. You can't use the Bible to prove the Bible. It just doesn't work. And we have absolutely no original documents of the scriptures. So we don't know if any of this stuff even really happened. The genealogy of Jesus, it just doesn't make sense. You have two genealogies, one supposedly from Joseph, one supposedly from Mary, but yet they both say they're from Joseph, so it doesn't make any sense at all, right? And what does the Old Testament tell us? It tells us that Jesus will be of the lineage of David. It just doesn't add up. Why would it be from the lineage of Joseph? And how does we know Jesus isn't even Joseph's kid? Why how does that genealogy verify or clarify anything? It has nothing to do with Jesus. Jesus is God's child, right? He doesn't need a genealogy. But anyways, that's just a couple of thoughts right off the top of the head. But if you look at the Old Testament clearly lays out a literal, figurative understanding of the coming Messiah that everybody will be able to understand, and it will not be questionable. Supposedly, when the Messiah comes, according to the Old Testament, war will end, right? There'll be no more war. We will, turn all of our weapons into farm equipment for agriculture. There'll be no more war. It'll be peace. The lamb will lay down with the lion, and there will be a universal knowledge of God. This is all in the Old Testament. There will be no doubt. Every man, woman, and child will know that Christ has arrived, or Jesus will have arrived, because it'll be a universal knowledge and it won't be questionable. Okay? It's very clear in the Old Testament that there will be no reason to question. Now, when you get into the New Testament, all of a sudden, now it's changed into this sort of mystery religion where, no, you're not going to see it yourself, right? You have to rely on the testimony of others. You have to rely on the testimony of Paul and these other supposed prophets and apostles that have this knowledge of Jesus, have this knowledge of the Christ. You no longer, will know anything. And so basically the whole New Testament is based upon the revelation and and the claims of these apostles and prophets, this secret knowledge that you don't have, that they have. And it turns into something completely different where you're reliable on them, the prophets in the New Testament, as to where the Old Testament's claim of the Messiah is totally different. It's totally you eyewitnessing the evidence that the Messiah has returned, because there will be world peace. You see? So if Christ, the Messiah, has came, why, and he's been here, why do we not have world peace right now? Why is the lamb not lying down with the lion? Why have none of those revelations been fulfilled? Those prophecies, why have they not been fulfilled if Christ actually did come? There should have been a temple built. But none of this stuff makes any sense, because in the New Testament, Christ comes during the time that there already is a temple. It should have been destroyed. It should have been not there. And then when Christ came back, it was to be rebuilt. All these things did not happen when Christ came. The only thing that we have are these prophecies being fulfilled that really aren't in the Old Testament. There's nothing about a Messiah being dead for 3 days and resurrecting, all of these miracles and supernatural things that everybody is goes crazy about, is just not in the Old Testament. The original concept of this Messiah coming forward, it's just not there. So one way to consider whether or not Christianity is a mystery religion is to look at the language. Nowhere in the Bible that I have seen does it say that this stuff is to be taken literal. It does not say that it is a literal, actual thing. But it does have tons of sufficient language to indicate that it is indeed a mystery religion, and that it's meant to be taken allegorical. It gets into scriptures that talk about this secret knowledge, right? This gnosis. And we'll take a look at some of these scriptures I'll share here with you. Let's take the time to go through some of these.
Ephesians 3, starting in verse 3. How that by revelation he made known unto me the mystery, as I wrote afore in few words, whereby when ye read ye may understand my knowledge in the mystery of Christ, which in other ages was not made known unto the sons of men, as it is now revealed unto his holy apostles and prophets by the Spirit, that the Gentiles should be fellow heirs, and of the same body, and partakers of his promise in Christ by the gospel, whereof I was made a minister according to the gift of the grace of God, given unto me by the effectual working of his power. Unto me, who am less than the least of all saints, in this grace given that I should preach among the Gentiles the unsearchable riches of Christ, and to make all men see what is the fellowship of the mystery, which from the beginning of the world hath been hid in God, who created all things by Jesus Christ. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 19 says, quote, And for me, that utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel. End quote. Why all of the mystery language? If it is a literal, real thing, there is no need for mystery. Christianity is a mystery religion, period. The mystery language in the New Testament is abundant. There is a lot of it. A simple Google search can open up a whole world of mystery language in the New Testament. It is simply a mystery religion. And it's about gnosis. Either you will be able to get it or you won't. If you don't get it, you will think it is literal. I encourage you to go and research the mystery language in the New Testament.
So is Christianity meant to be taken literally or figuratively? Is Christianity a mystery religion? Yes, absolutely it is. If you look at the language, just look at the language. If it was literal, if it was real, you wouldn't have to rely on other people's revelation, other people's claims. You wouldn't have to rely on this priesthood authority. According to the Old Testament, every man and woman will know. You won't have to rely on anybody's authority. Every man and woman will have a personal witness because it will be literally real. That is what the Old Testament teaches about the coming Messiah. But yet in the New Testament, something totally different is constructed and made. This whole thing about the apostles witnessing and seeing Christ and having this secret knowledge of Christ. All of a sudden, you're relying on these apostles and prophets in this book in order to know if any of this is real, what happened, and that is not at all what the Old Testament teaches. So, yes, it is absolutely a mystery religion. It's all there in the language. If it was literal, it would say to take it literal, but it doesn't say to take it literal. But what it does say is that there is mystery. It's all mystery, mystery. These are symbols that mean something else. They aren't talking about some literal man coming back. Okay? It's just not there. It's not in the book. This is something that is being created out of whole cloth. And what people will say is that, well, Jesus didn't do that yet. He's not going to do that yet. That all happens in the second coming. But unfortunately, the second coming is not something that has to do with the original concept of the coming Messiah. It's just not there. This whole second coming thing is just something that's just created in the New Testament to cover up the fact that all of the revelation from the Old Testament it wasn't fulfilled. It hasn't come to fruition yet. So they just say, well, that'll happen in the second coming. But until then, you're just going to have to accept these apostles and prophets' claims, right? And that's not at all how it's supposed to be. If it is real, it's supposed to be known to every man and woman without a doubt. And there is supposed to be peace upon the earth, and lamb will lay down with lion, and the third temple will be built, and all this stuff, and this universal knowledge of God will reign over the whole earth. So it won't matter whether you're an atheist or agnostic or a Buddhist. It's just not going to matter, because it's going to be self-evident. It's going to be literal. That's what the Old Testament claims. But it's not there in the New Testament. Instead of what is done is there is this priesthood created in the New Testament. This priesthood power to create a fictional authority over the people. Plain and simple. So the language is there. The evidence is not there. So in closing, this is exactly why the Jewish people do not accept Christ as the Messiah. Because when he was supposedly here, he did not fulfill any prophecy that was supposed to be fulfilled. That's why the Jewish people are still waiting for the Messiah, because they know that according to the Old Testament, when the Messiah actually does return, you won't need to rely on the revelation and prophecy of these made up apostles and prophets in the New Testament. It's a totally separate thing. The New Testament is indeed all about mystery. Okay, it's not talking about some literal physical man. It's talking about knowing thyself, learning the nature of God. It's about being able to read between the lines. It's about, being able to understand what God is and how you're a reflection of God, right? And how you and the Father are one. All, all of that sort of language there, it's meant for people to be able to find out the truth, to know thyself. No better goal has ever been placed upon the minds and hearts of men and women, is to know thyself. Because if you know thyself and you are on that journey to knowing yourself, then you're automatically learning to know about God as well, because all is God. God is the all. And that is the ultimate knowledge, to not just know, but to live and experience. So that is, those are my thoughts in regards to the legitimacy of the biblical claims, and there's obviously a lot more to it than that. Absolutely, no doubt. I encourage you to explore and continue your journey, and to like the video if you can. I appreciate all the encouragement. I've noticed that I've had some people that they'll follow me, and then shortly after they'll unfollow me. I think they realize that I'm not really who they think I am. I think some people, they misunderstand me, and they'll see one of my videos and it might sound like I'm a believer, in their version of God or something like that. And then I sort of cross that line with them a little bit, where they get uncomfortable and offended, and then they decide to unfollow me, which is fine. But anyways, this is just something that I enjoy doing for myself. I love to talk about this stuff. So if you got any questions, please, any remarks, let me know. I appreciate all the interaction, and I will respond. I do appreciate it. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I appreciate that as well. Follow me. I am Mr. Gary Palmer on Instagram if you want to follow me. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a blessed day or evening. Peace.